Well, folks, here I am again. We're still on the third installment, but I had a situation where I pulled my mic, I paused, I pulled my mic up to take a drink of water, and I didn't put my mic back down, and I thought that it would not record anything, but lo and behold, it did record. So, oh no, was it for naught because it did record. So I'm just making another step to this. So we're going to go back to path 3. And we're going to start there again. So here we go. The path runs from Kether Crown to Tiphereth, Beauty and Harmony. Tarot archetype the star. Holy Spirit or first breath with the Son, S-O-N, of light. Christ, transcendent illumination. Grace. The Halarian Crystal is the Alchemistra Halarian, the alchemical solvent, that divine elixir which creates the bridge between worlds, powers, kingdoms. It is all formulation quickened to integration, the master logos of crystallic union. Without the doctrine of signature embodied in the Alchemistra Halarian, no bonding among the various components of the crystal doctrine could take place. Now, I want to stress what it's really saying here, which you wouldn't know unless I'm telling you, which I am now. Thoth speaks of the doctrine of signature. Well, there's a doctrine of signature with anything and everything, but see, we are composed of crystals. Our DNA has crystals. So without the doctrine of signature in the Halarian crystals, which is intrinsic to all crystal and composite on the planet, in the universe, I would assume in this dimension, we couldn't exist because the doctrine of signature formulates how we compose ourselves. There's not this divine hand up there saying, link this atom to that atom and then move this over here. And if this happens, you got to do this and come over here. These are all light encodings. That's true. But what sets them into motion? What is the command factor? That is the doctrine of signature. And the doctrine of signature is primarily coming through the crystalline composure of our relativity, I guess you would say. And so we can address that within the Halarian crystals. Thus, when it says, without the doctrine of signature embodied in the Alchemistra Halarian, no bonding among the various components of the crystal doctrine could take place. So the Alchemistra Halarian, from what I'm understanding here, is the formula, or the commanding figure, let's say, that causes that doctrine of signature to take traction within our human experience through our crystalline composition in the DNA, in the whole body, but in the DNA as a starting point. Okay, so we continue. This Halarian projects through golden radiolated quartz. Again, this is a simplification of this kind of projection. If we were to take one of these, we could probably find many, many ways in which this Halarian projects into the crystalline dynamic of the planet in a feel, see, and touch, know experience. Thoth is giving a demonstration here in all of these. Grail Mythos. Merlin selects the infant author as Grail King. He does so under a mandate from the hierarchy through the primordial being Narada. However, this choosing cannot create the Summerland or eternal kingdom on earth unless all requirements of obedience to the hierarchy are met, or grace is achieved through the receipt of the Holy Grail, the receptacle of the solvent of purity as a redemption of light. Now, what does it mean, the obedience to the hierarchy? That sounds a little like 1% elite, doesn't it? But that's not what it means. The hierarchy means an order, an order of form. Okay, number 1, number 2 goes here, like a little outline. A comes under B. You have an outline. That's the hierarchical order. It's like a step ladder. Well, there's hierarchical order in everything we are, in our DNA, in everything. The stars in the sky, there's a hierarchical ordering that allows things to take place the way they do and to link up in the way they do. This is not I'm better than you kind of thing. It is a format to be able to connect all components. We've distorted the use of the hierarchy big time on this planet. But that's what it means. So when it says obedience to the hierarchy, it means that if we work against the divine pattern in our being, we are violating that pattern. We are separating ourselves from its doctrine of signature. And that's exactly what Thoth says we did when we chose to move further and further down the scale to get to this level of planetary existence. Now, this is not a make wrong, it's just a choice. But the choice did cause us to violate that principle. So I guess it wasn't such a good idea. But nevertheless, here we are. So this is why we find ourselves so separate from ourselves, if you know what I mean. Because we have attempted to divorce that intrinsic nature. I say attempted because you can't really ever escape your divine being, but you can do a good imitation of it. You can convince yourself of it so completely that there's an amnesia in the connective experience, and so you might as well be light years away from it. So we're attempting to reconnect in many ways now on the planet, especially now. So we go to path 4. The path runs from Chokmah, wisdom, to Bina, understanding. The tarot archetype is judgment, fusion of wisdom and understanding, the unknown limits and energies of the stellar originative universe. The Halarian Crystal is the covenant Halarian. So the name of the crystal, the Halarian that he's giving it, is covenant. The Halarian of the sacred pact or oath between God and mankind conveys purity of original purpose, whole forms, and divine command. It is the crystal vibration of the true ark of the covenant, the ark of grace, the sacred on. But that doesn't say that here, but that's what it is. So the Halarian crystal then, that relates mostly to the ark of the sacred on, that is to be found in the crest and the stone and crestone, would be the Halarian crystal. The Halarian crystal, the covenant crystal. Okay, let me try this again. The covenant Halarian. I'm especially scattered today because I had about 3 hours sleep last night. And you would say, well, why am I doing this? But I had the divine urge to do this today, so I'm doing it. But, I'm sounding a little more scatterbrained than usual, and I do apologize for that. The Halarian projects through clear rainbow quartz and optical clear rainbow calcite. Grail Mythos, Merlin's ability to move through space and time, connecting and holding together the greater grid of the Grail mystery within the imperfect realm of human failings. Eventually, Merlin could no longer continue to accomplish this feat. However, the first stages of the Grail plan via author in his kingdom was a product of Merlin's ability to maintain the vision of purity given to him by the cosmic hierarchy. So Merlin, and we must remember that Thoth says he was one of the 5 souls of Merlin, was obviously had received solar initiation at a high level, and that allowed him to be able to do this. Because he was moving through space and time, connecting and holding together the greater grid of the Grail mystery. So he not only had the vision of it as a prophet would, but he literally was viscerally connecting to it in a way that held it together in his cosmology, in his personal holographic cosmology that we all have, so that he could project that and aim that into the reality spectrum of those who were performing this function along with him. And the direction was given by what is called by many sources the cosmic hierarchy. We won't go into how that might play out, as the meaning of the cosmic hierarchy, but it is an order of divine command from enlightened sources, intelligences that operate in those frequencies. So now we come to path 5. This path runs from Chokmah, wisdom, to Tiphereth, beauty and harmony, giving rise to immaculate transmutation and balance of force and form, perfection of power, sun of light, reaching into the created worlds. The Halarian crystal is the Stella Maris Halarian. The Halarian of Lemuria, or Mu, this etheric crystal contains the memory pattern of the first land, Mu. Within its projection are continuity, fluidity, maternal focus, first light, angelic patterns imprinted into the earth. This Halarian projects through Lorimar and violet or blue sapphire and celestite and starstone. It's got a lot of stones there that Thoth is giving as a primary source projection. The Grail mythos, the heritage and consciousness of Guinevere. It is her bloodline in the Arthurian legends that contains the strongest connection to the original Grail kings and queens of Atlantis. Her genetic memory guides the plan demonstrated through author. Even Merlin is not able to perform this service. While Merlin keeps track of events through space and time and unites them in the real world, Guinevere holds the consciousness behind the original purpose. And of course, we're not speaking here actually of people. Well, Merlin in some states can, yes, because he was actually physically doing this. Guinevere, the soul of Guinevere, certainly played a role in this, but she was not. None of the other characters in the Grail Merlin scenario in real life, in the actual roles they really performed, the ones that were actual real characters, real people. Some of the Grail mythos combines people, into a character or an archetype. But the ones that were really walking around there and doing their thing, like little Guinevere here, she was, a beautiful soul, but she's not an illumined one. But it's saying that in the projection of what the purpose held under these beings as archetypes, as understanding the archetype they represented. So this is the case. Merlin plays both roles. He's an archetype, but he's also a really kicking dude, he can really deliver. He is a Solarian being of the highest order. Well, we're all kind of Solarian beings, but he's like, a solar master and a 5-souled solar master. So he knows his stuff. Now, Guinevere, just sort of an FYI on Guinevere, Thoth says that, at least, he doesn't say there was a bunch of souls with Guinevere. I think there's only one, but I'm not sure. But anyway, he says that Princess Diana was actually the real Guinevere, was her name. and so that's what he says. Now, Charles was most definitely not Lancelot, but I'm not putting him down, but he just wasn't. However, there's a whole story of that I won't get into. But the fact is, she's a beautiful soul. Obviously, Princess Diana was a beautiful soul, but she had her things going on in her life like we all do. So she was not an illumined one. But obviously, she was chosen for her purity of spirit and heart to play the role she did, including the role of Princess Diana. So we're still on this Emperor path, is path 6, the Emperor. So the Halarian Crystal is called the Solomon Hilarion. Divine work. No. Let's scratch that, because I skipped the whole thing. We were on Guinevere, and I didn't think Guinevere was going to come as Solomon Hilarion. Guinevere is the last of what we're studying on path 5, and that was the Hilarion of the Stella Maris, which certainly fits Guinevere. So now we're going to path 6, and path 6 runs from Chokmah Wisdom to Chesed Mercy. The Tarot archetype, the Emperor, illimitable creative power, ancient Sky Father, the universal seed or potency of being which manifests as galaxies within the vessel of space and time. Now, I'm not saying this each time, but remember, when I'm reading to you about the Tarot archetype, that is in quotes in the book, and that is from, it's not me or Thoth, that is from this Merlin Tarot by J.J. Stewart or whoever, somebody Stewart. Now that part says, but then Thoth says after that, it's the Halarian Crystal is the Solomon Hilarion. And he speaks about that, saying, divine work through physical manifestation. This crystal vibration acts on the pituitary gland in a region of this gland that has been non-active in humanity since the fall. This action enables the individual to better access their own powers of manifestation. Here is exemplified the ray of spirit penetrating into matter in a creative and bold form. The Halarian projects through the Elat stone. This is a combination of turquoise, malachite, chrysocolla, and sometimes other minerals such as azurite naturally combined. Elat stone is mined from the lost mines of King Solomon, Israel, near the Sinai border. Unfortunately, many of these stones of this combination of minerals sold in Israel actually come from South America. They still do carry much of the same energy charge, but the ones actually mined in Elat, Israel, are the most potent in this regard. Grail Mythos. Author pulls the sword from the stone, an impossible feat that he accomplishes by allowing the divine to act through him. In this act, so he becomes ruler of the land and a shapeshifter of destiny. Well, it's certainly a metaphor because we're all trying to pull that sword from the stone in our lifetimes. And we never really succeed, not in the truest sense of the word. However, the effort, as it says, the journey is more important than the arrival or the goal. The effort of it brings us into all kinds of understanding, facts, and knowledge about ourselves and our weaknesses and our strengths. So the Solomon Hilarion, and he's named it Solomon, not just because of the Elat stone coming out of the mines and all of that, but because Solomon represents the wisdom and the solar wisdom, Solomon. This is a solar wisdom, but it also reflects the reflection, the moon, solar moon. So Thoth's version of the word Solomon is Sol, U, as a U, and then M-U-N, too, so solar moon. So the wisdom of Solomon, reflected through the divine feminine, quickens and awakens the emperor, the inimitable creative power. That's not it. It's illimitable creative power. So that's what that is. Okay. The Grail Myth, no, I read that. Okay, Path 7. The path runs from Bina, understanding, to Tiphereth, beauty and harmony. The Tarot archetype is the Hanged Man. The order of, now I've always pronounced it Melchizedek, and I heard the other day it pronounced differently. But you know me in pronunciations. But I'm just going to go with Melchizedek for now because I can't even remember what the other pronunciation was. So the order of Melchizedek, the ancestral kings, sacrifice and full knowledge, keystone of the arc of heaven, initiation into the mysteries of light. That's what the Hanged Man represents, the Tarot archetype, as so far as Mr. Stewart says in the Merlin Tarot, which they wanted us to use at that time, me to use at the time. There are two Halarian crystals involved here. One is the Aaron Halarian, and the other is the Orpheus Halarian. The Aaron Halarian is the Halarian which contains the encoding of the ancient Melchizedekian orders of Mu and Atlantis in their recalibrated form within the order of Aaron. The recalibration of this structure is of great importance to the Earth in realigning it to the greater light program originally brought to the Earth by Lord Melchizedek. The Aaron Halarian projects through black agate and black tourmaline. The Orpheus Halarian is the Halarian of harmony through sound, the sacrifice of the divine heart on the altar of humanity in order to sustain the holy tone or word. The Orpheus Halarian projects through gem silica, a gem quality of chrysocolla, and kunzanite and spectrolite. The Aaron Halarian Grail Mythos. The knights of the Round Table swear allegiance to the king, and thus to that which their sovereign upholds, finding truth in other human beings and upholding not those persons, but the truth they represent. And this is not suggesting that you don't honor the people who bring the truth, but it's saying you don't pin the tail on the donkey. You don't place it on the person, but on the truth that they represent. That's where your true energy flows, because the person can wobble or not be a perfect person, and you go, oh my gosh, here I was believing what they said, and look, they're not perfect, and I'm so disappointed, But if you follow the truth that is brought forth, whether it's, the person messes up or has other stuff you don't like, the truth is the main thing that's so important. The Orpheus Halarian Crystal Grail Mythos. Sacrifice of the lesser self in order to serve spirit, a virtue of Galahad and all true Grail Knights. And so now we come to Path 8. I need to see how long I can hold out on this. I'm looking for a breaking point so we can continue with another one later. And you know what? I think, wasn't I going to go to 12, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I think I'll go through 12 with this because there's 22 or something in them. It's going to make a long video, even cut in 2 parts here. So that's what I'm going to do. But right now, we are on... Oh boy, now I lost my place. We are on Path 8. Yes. Okay. The path runs from Bina, understanding, to Gebrua, judgment, severity, and strength. The Tarot archetype is death, the ultimate dissolution of form and pattern, drawing energy back across the abyss, purifying understanding, and ultimate transformation. Now, there are 2 Halarian crystals, the Merlin Hilarion and the Quetzalcoatl Hilarion. The Merlin Hilarion, the crystal power of pure energy as it retreats from form, the catalytic primal stirring of the elements in a state of inward or hidden pattern, not revealed to the uninitiated, dualistic forces brought together to create synergic creations in nature. The Merlin Hilarion projects through smoky quartz and hawk's eye and bogie stone. The Quetzalcoatl Halarian. The consciousness of the plumed serpent is a crystallic power of the light as it is born of darkness. It is that which transcends its base nature, employing the very tools of that nature to radiate light. That's an interesting statement. I don't want to, go off too much on all of it, or we'll be here all day. But, that's very tasty. Employing the very tools of that nature, the nature of the base nature. So let's look at our everyday being in our lives. And how do we employ the tools of our basis nature that we all have to radiate light? I'm not going there. That could be a whole workshop, but I'm just posing the question for you in your own contemplation. The Quetzalcoatl Halarian projects through terminated quartz and snowflake obsidian and bogie stone. So both the Merlin and the Quetzalcoatl use the bogie stone. The Merlin Hilarion Grail Mythos. Merlin as the worker of primordial energy. While his Christed nature orchestrates the greater plan, his wizardry appeases the earth gods and goddesses, elemental forces of nature. He brings his charge author into contact with these primordial forces so that author may know the nature of his own elemental being in order to master it. The Quetzalcoatl Halarian Grail Mythos. Merlin is used here via Quetzalcoatl as we are running with the theme of the Halarian mythos to describe the consciousness associated with each Halarian. Merlin's birth as the child of a nun and a demon. In truth, he was the son of normal parents. However, the mythos from which Merlin arises is intent on expressing the dualistic forces in Merlin's nature, which he used to transform his life experience, transformational dualistic states. Well, so even though it's a Quetzalcoatl Halarian crystal, it's talking about Merlin again because, Thoth was Quetzalcoatl and he was Merlin, so it's all kind of wrapped up together. But it says of normal parents, and yes, he did have normal parents, but one thing was missed upon here, and I had written about it in my Merlin's Chronicle, which is written previous to this material, but I just didn't, I don't know, it wasn't figured in some way. And that is that Merlin's father was not a nice guy. I mean, he had his strength. He had his purpose. It was like, he had to come in to genetically seed that son. And he had a certain awareness and spirituality connected to that. But his lesser nature really had hold of him in a lot of ways. So that might have been the demon scenario there and brought up in that particular text. Now we're on path 9. The path runs from Gebrua, judgment, severity, and strength, to Chesed, mercy. The Tarot archetype is justice, creation and destruction as properties of spiritual consciousness, a perfect comprehension of the energies of adjustment. Halarian crystal is the Athene Halarian, an etheric crystal of the divine warriors. It possesses an active principle of balance. Like Kali, path 12, the Athene Halarian is fiery and dynamic. Yet, while Kali is the confronter, Athene is the protector and defender. Both share the sephira of judgment, severity, and strength, but Kali is also linked to beauty, the divine rapture, while Athene is linked to and the giver of mercy, grace, despite her warrior's nature. The Halarian projects through ruby, cuprite, ruby and, did I get that right? Yes, ruby and cuprite. That's the two. The Grail Mythos, the true Morgana, or Morgha, is exemplified on this path. She was not an evildoer, but an exactor of justice. While she was unflinching in her duty, she was not without compassion. Or so says Thoth. I'm not sure how that lines up with the particular mythos. Now, we come to path 10. Excuse me for a moment, I need a drink of water. Okay, I'm actually also dealing with a mild bug of some kind, and it's acting on my chronic allergic throat a little more than usual here, and I've been reading a lot, but I do want to get to 12, and then I will stop for this session. So I just finished Morgan, and now I'm on path 10. The path runs from Chesed, mercy, to Tiphereth, beauty and harmony. The Tarot archetype is strength, building power of solar world, the blessing aspect of the sun of light. 2 Halarian crystals, the blue Isis Halarian and the heart star Isis Halarian. The blue Isis Halarian, also seen as the flame of Buddha. This archetypal crystal is grace personified in a form of greatest accessibility to the earth plane. It is the perfect mercy, that aspect of Sophia wisdom that is all-embracing and personal. The blue Isis Halarian projects through light blue topaz and aquamarine. The heart star Isis Halarian, a crystal vibration that is the divinity of Isis, which is the nurturer, that is love divine. This Halarian is very similar to the blue Isis, yet the blue activates a level of grace accessible to all, while the heart star feeds the initiation flame only to those who seek it in the halls of the inner mystery. It needs to be said, if they're seeking it in the halls of the inner mystery, they already have initiated the blue Isis, which is a level of grace accessible to all. They've already received that. The heart star Halarian projects through pink calcite. The blue Isis Halarian Grail Mythos, mercy brought to the threshold, Guinevere's forgiveness of Author for his breach of trust in her. The heart star Isis Crystal Mythos is Guinevere's love of Author as her husband and king, a love beyond mortal attachment or design, also the love of Galahad for divine truth. And now we come to path 11. The path runs from Chesed, mercy, to Netzach, victory and eternity. The Tarot archetype, the Empress, positive, giving, generous, and blessing powers. Merciful victory, lady of flowers, giver of life. The Halarian crystal triplicity. So we got 3 of them here. The Mari Halarian, which contains within it the Mother Mari Halarian, the Mari Martha, we don't hear a lot about her, Halarian, and the Mari Magdalene Halarian. This Halarian radiates the threefold divinity of Mari, represented in the Mother of Yeshua, Mary Martha, and Mary Magdalene. Each is a profound mystery of the goddess. Well, you know, we're really, really on to Mary Magdalene all the time. Everybody loves Mary Magdalene, and I'm not saying that facetiously. She's incredible energies archetype. And, you know, Virgin Mary gets kind of left behind a little bit, but, you know, she is the mother of Jesus, so she's there. But Mary Martha, you know, who talks about her? So that would be an interesting subject to broach with those. Let's just talk about Mary Martha and see who she is. But we're not going there right now, but I just thought I'd bring that up. Okay, so this triplicity Halarian projects through the Mother Mary Halarian, which is rose quartz, the Mary Martha, which is Carillion, and the Mary Magdalene, which is pink tourmaline. The Grail Mythos. Guinevere becomes the queen, and as she assumes this role, so she brings her ancient Grail heritage into union with the matter world. What has been in incubation is now active in the land. Yet her essence must remain pure and in continuous receipt of its original form. So this path also is one of the Virgin Mary in all forms of her expression. Guinevere is also representing Mary Magdalene, the esoteric worker in the sensual realm. She is the priestess beyond the veil who is hidden in her true power beneath the shade of illusion placed upon her by patriarchal powers. You know, those that wanted to make Mary Magdalene a prostitute, which she never was. But Mary Magdalene is also a sensual image, a being in the sense of sensuality representing the true flow of the harmonic vibration that draws water from the well, you know, and that draws the male essence into her womb. So in that sense, it's also true. Okay. Let's see, I read that. Oh, here. Oh. But it doesn't say anything about Martha. Wait a minute. Did I miss a stitch here? I was expecting something about Martha. So I'm going to pause for a minute because I want to find out how we miss Martha. Well, this is definitely an oversight on my part of not, you know, work. I can't imagine Thoth leaving Martha out. He already stated she was here, and it's not given here. So I must have missed a stitch in this whole thing, which is a shame. But, you know, it just calls me to the table to really get some more on Mary Martha. And when I do, I'll add her in this in some way because she should be here in regard to what that part of her represents, and it's just missing. I'm not happy about that. But anyway, we have to move on to path 12. The path runs from Gebrua, judgment, severity, and strength, to Tiphereth, beauty and harmony. The tarot archetype is the blasted tower, breakdown of form by force, gods of sudden and inevitable force, beautiful severity, purification by fire. Now the Halarian Crystal is the Kali Halarian, mother of worlds, rebalancing the matter world to conform to the charge of spirit, a Halarian of divine direction, absolute and profound, only distressful if the initiate is not prepared for complete confrontation with truth. And you know, I don't know if confrontation is really the right word. Perhaps surrender is a better word. Surrender to truth. But confrontation is given here, and unless it's a poor translation on my part, I need to consider that Thoth might have actually meant confrontation. I'm going to say that he did mean confrontation in this sense because we're standing on the threshold of the, you know, dweller of the threshold here. So it would be confrontational, not in the sense of doing battle, but to confront something. And you must confront it to accept it. Then you can come into maybe a surrender to it in the next step. But there's a confrontation when you meet your dweller on the threshold. Okay. The Kali crystal will play an important role in world transformation as one of the faces of Sophia. This Halarian projects through black fire opal. The Grail Mythos, the destruction of King Arthur's kingdom, the dark side of events which transpire and eventually succeed in the... Oh my goodness, sorry. Whoa. I'm sorry about that. That probably scared everybody listening to this. Hold on. Well, okay. Wasn't that fun? I mean, if you were sleeping during this, that certainly woke you up. I know it did me. And that was Trisha vibering me. I forgot to turn the viber off on the computer and to turn my phone off so there would be no interruptions. And unfortunately, I didn't do that. So we shall continue with this last path that I'm talking about today. So we're going to try this again. Everyone take a deep breath, including me. And so here we go. Path 12. The path runs from Gebrua, judgment, severity, and strength, to Tiphereth, beauty and harmony. The tarot archetype is the blasted tower. breakdown of form by force, gods of sudden and inevitable force, beauty, severity, purification by fire. I know I read some of this before. Please bear with me. I'm just going to repeat a little to get me back into the flow, so if I need to make a comment, I can do so. Halarian Crystal, the Kali Halarian, Mother of Worlds, rebalancing the matter world to conform to the charge of spirit, a Halarian of divine direction, absolute and profound. Only distressful if the initiate is not prepared for complete confrontation with truth. And you remember when I said I was questioning the word confrontation, and then I did decide that that was the correct word. The Kali crystal will play an important role in world transformation as one of the faces of Sophia. This Halarian projects through black fire opal. The Grail Mythos, the destruction of King Arthur's realm, the dark side of events which transpire and eventually succeed in the downfall of the Summerland. It is spiritualized consciousness succumbing to the tide of human events in its path through matter and back to the divine. Kind of sounds like where we are now. Path 13. The path runs from Gebrua, judgment, severity, and strength, to, I'm not doing 13. That's right. I'm not doing 13. Okay, that's just a little teaser. So we're ending with path 12, and the fourth installment, because these two videos count as one, will continue with path 13. I know this was a especially disruptive video series for you, this particular two, and I do apologize, but if I were to try to recreate it or edit it, it would not work out well. So I am hopeful that doing it this way, you will extract the goodness from it and follow through with, your own feelings and thoughts and experience about the wisdom that it does project, despite all my mumbling, bumbling, and phones ringing and things going on. So my very great love to you all, and we will continue with the next one at a later date.